Russian defense officials say Ukraine has launched another mass drone attack on Russian territory, with a military airfield in Volgograd in southwest Russia among the targets overnight. 28 drones were reportedly shot down overall, and Russia says it has repelled a new Ukrainian incursion attempt in the border region of Bryansk. It neighbors the Kursk region, where Ukraine's military is still advancing. A Ukrainian battalion commander tells CNN that Russian troops there are putting up more of a fight. They're ambushing Ukraine's forces and, quote, no longer surrender by the hundreds. He also says Russian forces have brought in more artillery and are using it more frequently, but aren't hitting their targets. Meanwhile, Ukrainian troops are trying to defend a key city in eastern Ukraine, with Russian forces advancing faster than expected. Thousands of civilians in the city of Pokrovsk are being urged to leave now while they still have a chance. CNN's Salma Abdulaziz joins me now from London. So, Salma, first, what is the latest on the Ukrainian incursion, or should I say incursions?
Yes, absolutely. So in Kursk, of course, that surprise offensive, that shock assault had Russian troops struggling to respond. It's now been 2 weeks since that time, and it appears they have been able to regroup, rearm, and redeploy. U.S. officials said last week that Russian forces were being moved around to try to defend Kursk, and now we're hearing from Ukrainian forces that say, yes, they are facing heavy resistance, that these troops, as you mentioned, are not surrendering in the same manner. Moscow is also hitting Ukraine hard away from Kursk. You mentioned what's going on in eastern Ukraine, in the Donetsk region, where Russian troops are advancing quickly, and hundreds of Ukrainians are being forced to flee their homes every day. President Zelensky spoke about this last night. Take a listen.
The front line, our positions, primarily in the Pokrovsk direction, our Donetsk region. We understand the enemy's moves, and we are strengthening our defenses. A review of ammunition supplies has been conducted. It's very important that our partners fully meet their commitments regarding every package and all our agreements. This is fundamental for defense.
You heard there again President Zelensky pleading for more Western support, for more Western aid in help in that Russian advance that is coming quickly into eastern Donetsk, again forcing those many people out, has local officials extremely alarmed and worried. I just want to read you a quote from one local official who was telling residents, "Don't wait, it will not get better, only worse. Leave." A very stark warning for those living in that region. Meanwhile, of course, you mentioned those tit-for-tat drone attacks that continue between Russia and Ukraine. Russia accusing Moscow in particular, the city of Moscow accusing Ukraine of launching its largest drone attack ever on the capital. Russia also accusing Ukraine of attacking a military site, a Russian military site near the border of Volgograd overnight. And Ukraine, it's also tit-for-tat drone attacks again here. So Kyiv saying that overnight Russia hit Kyiv with dozens of drones. You continue to have that playing in the background while these front lines continue to move, to advance, to shift in shape as Russian forces move around to try to meet this Ukrainian advance in Kursk.
All right. Thanks so much, Salma Abdulaziz in London. Appreciate that. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Warsaw and will meet his Polish counterpart, Donald Tusk, next hour. But the next stop on Modi's trip is Ukraine. He's headed there on Friday, just weeks after a very friendly visit to Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. Modi has called for a ceasefire in Ukraine in the past, but without denouncing Russia's invasion. So for more, we're joined now by CNN's Mark Stewart from Beijing. So Mark, take us through what we can expect and the importance of this visit to Poland and to Ukraine, especially in the context of the war.
Right, Kim. Well, let's first talk about this visit to Poland, because Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived. I believe we have some pictures of him getting off his aircraft in Warsaw. This is a relationship between these two nations that actually dates back 70 years. In fact, in a statement from the Prime Minister's office, he refers to the Indian community in Poland as vibrant. This is very much a ceremonial visit, in addition to some of these political meetings that he will be taking place. But he is also spending time with the Indian community in Poland. And he gave some remarks today talking about some of these bigger issues facing the region, saying that he is stressing this idea of diplomacy and dialogue, adding that India in particular has been an advocate of permanent peace in this region. So very much a message of trying to create some kind of political stability because, Poland, while on its own, also does share a border with Ukraine. So this is very much an issue facing Poland as well as the whole of Europe. And the Prime Minister's presence in Poland and then going on to Ukraine is obviously going to be very symbolic. And the hope, Kim, especially when it comes to this visit to Ukraine, will lead to some substantive conversation between the two nations.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Mark, a balancing act, obviously, for Modi trying to maintain relations with Ukraine on one hand and Russia on the other.
It's a balancing act. As I was describing earlier, it's a very complicated relationship. And from what we are hearing from New Delhi is that really everything will be on the table when it comes to these discussions with President Volodymyr Zelensky, who did indeed personally invite Narendra Modi to Ukraine. This will include economic discussions and, of course, political and military discussions. But I think a big point of discussion will be India's position on this Russian invasion of Ukraine. I mean, as you mentioned, Modi has called for a ceasefire in Ukraine, but has not condemned Russia's attacks and has not necessarily denounced this invasion. It has also abstained from all votes in the United Nations when it comes to these matters. So this is going to be a very big talking point, especially after some of these images that we saw with Prime Minister Modi and Vladimir Putin embracing while on that trip. It called for a lot of condemnation. And there's also the economic factor involved. India has been getting cheap fuel from Russia as it basically has been cut off from the West. But in addition, Ukraine and India over the years have had an economic relationship. India has supplied pharmaceuticals to Ukraine. Ukraine has helped with food such as grains, which of course has been a staple of the Ukrainian economy. These two men have met before, Kim, on the sidelines of the G7, but this is going to be a face-to-face meeting at the invite of Volodymyr Zelensky. So the thought is maybe that will have more prominence indeed.
We'll see whether anything comes out of this. Mark Stewart, live in Beijing. Thank you so much.